Good evening and welcome to Woodstock City Council. It's Thursday, October the 19th, 2017. We have quite a group of delegations ahead of us here tonight and several items on the agenda, so we'll get right to work. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Matters arising from the minutes and the minutes. Councillor Petter.
I moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on October 5th, 2017 be adopted.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carries. And the next item is additions to the agenda. Councillor Petter.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that the following item be added to the agenda. Delegation 7D, Victor Lebreche Patterson and Associates Incorporated, application for zone change ZN 81716.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our first delegation is the Canadian Cancer Society regarding in-kind support for the 5th annual Cool Runnings Trail Race. Welcome.
I have a map. Do I have to do something to get it up there? Like it was sent to, but if I don't have a map, I don't have a map. You'll just have to imagine it. So I sent it to whoever it was supposed to, but okay, that's fine. I'm good. So I represent the committee planning the Cool Runnings race for the Cancer Society. It's to be held this Saturday. When I talked to the rest of the committee and I said, how come no one's had to do this before when no one could answer the question? So that's why I'm here 2 days before the race, because no one knew we had to do this. In the past 4 years, we raised over $30,000 for the Oxford Cancer Society. The race is in Roth Park and Burgess Park. It starts on the parking lot in Roth Park, and it runs to the west towards the dam. We actually have the dam open by the conservation area, and we run across the dam to partway almost to the other side, run back across the dam. The 10K people then continue to run towards Burgess Park, and they then run about 5K in Burgess Park. They return back to the dam on the gravel path, join the trail that the 5Kers had gone along the lake, and run down towards the apartment buildings, and just east of the apartment buildings they go up to the trail that's in the woods. They run through the trail to the woods back to the original starting line in the parking lot. So what we have requested from the Parks Department, similar to other races and similar to past years, was to have some cones. So 30 to 50 cones possibly to help us mark some of the trail. Some of our runners seem to get lost at the gate area when they return to Roth Park. So just a few things like that. We also have had barriers, 2 barriers that were used to block off the entranceway to Roth Park at the start of the race, because the race actually begins running down the road, and so we can't have any cars coming in at that time. So the police service auxiliary are booked. They come and close the gate, stand there and sort of supervise. The kids race goes in that direction at 9:30, and then again at 10 o'clock when the 5K and 10K begin, they block it off again so it doesn't interfere. It's then opened up as soon as all the runners have gone by, and people could still come into the park. It doesn't really interfere with very much. The 10K runners, in order to get to Burgess Park, have to cross and run briefly along Tecumseh Street. So the police auxiliary again help us there. In the past, they've just used cones. And what we have to do is temporarily stop the traffic when the runners are crossing across Tecumseh and into Burgess Park. As of Tuesday night, there were about 25 10K runners. So that's 25 people crossing Tecumseh twice. And they get pretty spread out. So it doesn't stop anyone for very long, just enough to make sure the runner doesn't get hit. And the police auxiliary are there supervising that. So the other thing we've just discovered is the St. John's Ambulance probably can't come and be our first aid people. And there are 2 nurses who have agreed to be the first aid representatives, but they have requested, if possible, can we have an AED? And our chairman, who is actually from Waterloo, actually researched it and provided a list of all of the AEDs in Oxford County And of course, most of them are not accessible on a Saturday, but I understand the Parks and Recreation Department has too. So I don't really know. I found out about this about half an hour before the meeting. So whether the Parks Recreation would let us use an AED for the day, I'm not sure. But I have to see if we can find one. Otherwise, the closest one seems to be, that would be accessible, would be at the Moose Lodge or the Navy Club. I don't think we'd be saving too many lives running down there to get one. And obviously, they don't want to give theirs up because they're open and they would need to have it on their own site. So I think that's all I have to ask for. So I'm looking for cones and barriers. The engineering department just sent me the approval for our proposal this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our next delegation is the Southgate Community Center regarding a proposed expansion. Welcome.
Thank you. Your Worship, Mayor Birch, honorable members of council, city staff, and guests. Thank you for granting Southgate Centre the time tonight for this delegation. It's been a year almost to the day, actually, that we stood before you delivering our annual update. We shared our good news stories and our challenges. And as I prepared for this evening's presentation, I reviewed the history of our city presentations. The consistency was intriguing. Our good news stories of fiscal responsibilities, membership, and program growth continue to increase, as do our challenges for space. Over the last 6 years, we've come to council and discussed the shifting demographics in Woodstock and Oxford County. In 2011, we reported that in 10 years, our senior population will have increased by over 40%. Reports state that Woodstock has the highest number of seniors in Oxford County. We have more seniors over the age of 60 than we do children in grade school. Ladies and gentlemen, we are fast approaching the crest of the silver tsunami. It's not a passing wave, it is a reality. The time to act is now. Thank you for laughing in the right spot. I appreciate it. Please let me remind you that today's presentation is for information only. On Wednesday, October the 25th at 7 p.m., we would like to invite all of you, as well as the public, to an open house at Southgate Centre to share the community centre expansion site plans. We'll be returning actually to council chambers on Thursday, November the 2nd, with a detailed presentation at that time. This will include community feedback, our costings, business plan, and our formal ask. This evening, I am very excited to introduce to you Mr. Jay Lim, Senior Architect, Senior Associate with Perkins & Will, who will share with you tonight a community center of which we can all be proud of.
Thank you, Chris, Mayor, councilors. I'm really excited to be able to present some ideas that we've been working with for the past couple months with Chris and her team to enliven an already vibrant center, but now giving it the space it deserves to absorb the community and the activities it needs to be a true community center. The Southgate Community Center expansion will involve developing a more pronounced facade and a new triple gymnasium attached to the facade along Old Wellington and Walter Street. So the idea here being that we will now create a new beacon for the community to gather around. Now it will allow us to engage the park and also bring new programming in here for both youth as well as seniors. We see this as an opportunity to bring administrative staff to a forefront, bring them to the street facade so that they can be seen and visibly be able to monitor the facility. We can imagine a new community center with a new parking area, new drop-off zone where both sides are treated as front entrances. You know, so now on the parking lot side, we can imagine a vibrant entrance that draws people in, maybe highlighting some of the workshop activities that have been taking place at the Southgate Center and really demonstrating all the activity that can go on here. We can see that display cases, entranceways clearly demarked, and the idea that this is now a new hub for this park. Further down, we already know that the Southgate Center is a very popular venue for weddings, and so we would like to, just pronounce that even more by creating outdoor venues as well as dedicated entranceways to allow the facility to function both with its recreation side as well as rentals at the same time. On the upper floor, we can imagine several multi-purpose rooms that can expand the offerings of the Parks and Recreation Department. Within the core in the atrium space, we know that the community, the existing senior members there like to gather, and we've created a new spot where we can imagine a light-filled space with green wall, where they can all come in to share in the amenity space, come and meet their friends, and at the same time, this space can then transform later on to host venues and larger events. The green wall is a way of getting in bringing some greenery and some sustainable effects into the building, and we can see it's a really bright and friendly place. The site plan of changes a little bit, so you can see on Walter Street that we create a new entrance and with a drop-off, expanding the parking to accommodate the new program within the building, but also to accommodate park activities. The old Wellington Street still remains the main facade with bus drop-off and additional parking for those who need it. In order to achieve this while maintaining the existing program, we'd like to phase it. So one of the ideas we had would be in phase one to bring in that new triple gymnasium and that new atrium space, thereby allowing the existing building to remain functioning throughout that time. Once the gym is functioning, we could then switch over. See, this is the backside of the gym. There you go. We could switch over and then start expanding the existing facility. The idea being that we could then box it out in an economical way, start and create a shell space on the second floor, and eventually turn that into more multi-purpose space. Ultimately, we see this as a complete site venue, whereby the phased approach will enable the project to remain functioning throughout the duration of construction. Here are some plans. This is the existing facility. You can see the existing turnaround here. And what we would do is in phase one, we would like to take and build that triple gymnasium, new storage, and new large atrium with new bathroom facilities and tuck shop. On the second floor of that space, you can see we would still build up. We'd have offices, administrative offices, bathrooms, and prepare for the next phase where we would start to build on the rest of the facility. In phase two, what we would do is we would then, during this renovation, we would close this off. The gym would be able to be used, and then renovations would take place in the main building, expanding the kitchen offerings and completing out the more storage on the outside. The second floor, we would then infill that. We would create either shell space for a future third phase, which would be multi-purpose rooms there. You can see within the plan here, the triple gymnasium works very well and enables us to use the banquet hall full-time for whatever venues, weddings, and banquets. The second floor, that shell space at a later can be then converted into multi-purpose rooms, libraries, gyms, and physiotherapy, which we understand is much needed in this facility. Ultimately, we think that the Southgate Center provides a great venue to connect the existing facility with the surrounding park, creates a beacon and an icon for the site, and really will allow the site to really wrap together both seniors as well as the rest of the community into one facility that Woodstock truly deserves. I'm happy to answer any questions that there might be. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of council? Councillor Shapton?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question regarding parking.
Yes.
Bring in a space like that, obviously additional parking will be requested. What are you adding for parking in that design?
So we have broken down the existing parkings here. So if we can all sort of see, existing parking is 91. The required is only 92 based off the expansion. We will still be able to provide 134. So there's what we require plus a bit more. And then we feel that would be helpful for the surrounding parks to baseball games or whatever it is. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder?
It's more of a comment just through to Southgate, and thank you for doing this, starting this study. And It's really exciting, and I hope it's sometime soon that we can go ahead
too.
and at least start on it in the first phase. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions of council? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Our next item on the agenda is delegation from Timothy Gibney. Welcome.
Welcome. It's glad to be here. It's the first time I've been able to clear a room. I'll let them get out. Members of City Council, how's your day so far? For your information, over 25 years ago, I was an elected official in Western Canada, so I do have compassion for you. As I see it, there are 4 types of elected officials. Number 1, the individualist, the person who does their own thing. Number 2, the what's in it for me person. They only care about themselves. Number 3, the minimalist, the person who only does the minimum. And then there's the leader, the person who does the extraordinary by serving all citizens. There are a couple of things that I need to mention to you so that you understand me and where I come from. I truly believe, number 1, if the city doesn't solve small issues, those issues become large problems. Number 2, thinking means connecting things and figuring out solutions to the citizens' issues. The majority of you have heard about the issues. The trouble is that you have not thought and connected the issue to create a solution. Now let's get back to why I'm here. I'm your measuring stick. I want a future council to look seriously at making this city look beautiful on a weekly basis, not just during the City Beautiful Award season. I hope you understand that not everyone will apply for an award, but I can tell you that the majority of people I've spoken to want their neighborhoods to be well kept. Over the past 5 years, numerous people have gotten very disappointed in what is going on in Woodstock. I state numerous people because the comments I'm going to make are not just about me, and they pertain to the lack of attention from you in front of me. In the following stories, I will show you why. Picture this. A new neighbor moves into a neighborhood and decides that the bylaws of Woodstock are not to his liking. You approach the new neighbor and state what the other neighbors have expressed to you as their concerns. He tells you that he does whatever he wants. Then you approach the particular department, and they get around to viewing the situation 24 hours after you call. You're concerned about this, so you call a council member for some assistance. Nothing changes. Months later, a police officer shows up at your door because this neighbor has falsely accused you. Imagine this in another area of Woodstock. A neighbor has garbage all over their yards for days on end. The concerned neighbor calls the particular department. No one shows up, so nothing changes. Picture this. A particular inspector comes to inspect a property for some infractions. He points them out, and upon leaving, the homeowner asks what will be done about the neighbor's yard. The inspector states, "We won't worry about that." I ask, where is the fairness? Imagine this. A neighbor has an electric fence set up but is not plugged in. What does the neighbor do? He surely doesn't contact the particular department. That is because he sat down with them and discussed other issues face to face and nothing was done. Finally, what about a neighbor who piles lumber beside his house? The city finally sends the particular inspector to the home. Over 2 months later, the neighbor finally removes the lumber from the property. Now remember this, it's 2 months later. What happened to follow through? No, I'm not saying follow up, I'm saying follow through. There's a big difference in it. Follow through shows responsibility. Follow up is all talk and no action. Then to top it all off, within a year, the pile of lumber starts again, so you phone another council member, and he brushes you off for 8 months by using the "I was preparing the budget" excuse. What a joke. Anyone who's been elected knows that city council members don't prepare the budget, they give approval for it. All this lack of action did was let the piles of lumbers become a birthing place for mice with at least 1 foot high weeds. For the sake of time, I will not go on any further. Let me tell you what makes people cynical. It's not an excess of criticism, but an absence of self-criticism. I believe that the majority of you are living in a bubble. I say that because you don't feel accountable to the public. I just wonder out loud how many of you have even read the bylaws. If you didn't notice, our bylaws pit neighbor against neighbor. To conclude, number one, leadership is action, not position. We don't need any more pretenders. Number two, when a citizen of Woodstock calls the particular department, that should be the only time a call is initiated. Remember, we don't work for the city employees get paid by us citizens. Number three, politics is about our relationship with our neighbor, which means that you as politicians should be entirely focused on all the relationships we have with our neighbors. And finally, number four, and it's most important, it is to understand that in order to change someone's attitude, you need to do things that will create behavioral change. In order to create behavioral change, follow through and larger fines are an absolute necessity. The majority of you have shown you are not leaders due to your lack of action. My greatest hope in coming to you today is that I would awaken the electorate of this. I thank you for your time.
Questions of council? Councillor Petter.
Through the mayor, I just want to thank Mr. Was it Gibney? For the wonderful speech. I'm assuming you're running next year. That's
Nope.
about all I can determine from that.
No, not running at all.
Not knowing what you were talking about, I'm assuming that you're having a problem with a neighbor. I'm assuming.
In fact, if you'd have listened entirely to what it is, it's not just me.
With a neighbor, I'm assuming.
All neighbors, yes.
So you're having a problem with all your neighbors?
No, it's numerous people are having trouble with lots of neighbors.
Okay. I still don't really understand, but I enjoyed your speech. Thank you.
Little condescending, okay. That speaks loudly.
Further questions of council? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is regarding the zone change 817-16. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Birch, members of council, and thank you again for obliging me as a delegation a few minutes late. And the application I'm here about, I'll keep my comments brief, was dealt with at a public meeting this past Monday. I'm only here as a result of a letter of concern that was brought to that meeting, the public meeting last Monday from downtown Woodstock BIA representative. I know that Ms. Hackler and I spoke about that at the meeting, and it was, I think, a broader policy question, I think, that was raised by the BIA. And I just wanted to be here as under an abundance of caution, I guess, to answer any questions, because not all councillors were present as they are tonight at the past public meeting. I understand that Ms. Hackler's also had follow-up discussions with the representative, I believe today, and she can certainly speak to that. But I understand the question or concern was resolved. I think the BIA wanted to make sure that this property and maybe subsequent properties that come in for a zone change, our client's lands is going to a C4 service commercial, very close to the interchange of Dundas and 401. And she wanted to make it clear that this area or the zoning of the C4 wouldn't come in for further uses that would mimic the C5 downtown zones and C3, so it would cause some threat over time. I think Ms. Hackler also spoke to her about the official plan policies that protect the interests of the downtown and only providing service commercial type uses. And there are probably, in my review, 10 to 15 additional uses that are permitted in the downtown that are not permitted in this area of Dundas in the service commercial areas. So I believe the matter has been resolved, but again, here to answer any questions and would appreciate, under your normal course of business, for your approval respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And consideration of delegations. Counselor Tate.
I'll move that the request from the Canadian Cancer Society regarding in-kind support for the 5th annual Cool Runnings Trail Race be supported.
Thank you. Seconded by Counselor Accioni. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And for the next item, Counselor Shapton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself that the presentation from Southgate Community Center regarding a proposed expansion be received as information.
Thank you. And a seconder, Counselor Talbot. Discussion? You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And next item, Counselor Tate.
I'll move that the presentation be received as information, and I'd like to speak to it after we have seconder.
And a seconder, Counselor Lauder. Counselor Tate.
I just, for council's benefit, when I first got on council, I did get a lot of complaints from Mr. Gibney, and our staff bent over backwards, and the police did attend a number of times with his complaints. It turned out there wasn't much that could be done because there wasn't really a complaint. I find it very offensive that our staff was criticized the way it was in public, because our staff is very courteous and always, if they're ever contacted, they always attend. And for all our differences on councils as each individual, I know for a fact that every councillor, when they are approached by the public, responds very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next item is consideration of planning reports. Counselor Shapton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the recommended zoning bylaw amendment file ZN 8-17-15 for lands comprising part lot 13, concession 1, Blandford, in the city of Woodstock, whereby the lands be rezoned from future development zone FD and environmental protection zone 1 EP1 to special general industrial zone M3-SP and environmental protection zone 1 EP1 to permit a cartage express and truck terminal on the subject lands, and further that comments received from the public were received and were considered in council's decision to approve the application.
Thank you. And seconded by Counselor Accioni. Ms. Hatchler.
Thank you. So the first application, as indicated by Councillor Shapton, is for Cedar Crest Development, and it's located on the west side of Oxford Road 4 between Devonshire and Dundas Street. The application is proposing to rezone the subject lands from Future Development Zone and Environmental Protection Zone 1 to General Industrial Zone M3 and maintain the Environmental Protection Zone. On the lands that will be rezoned M3, the applicant is requesting to permit a cartage express or truck terminal or yard. And the EP zone that is on the southern portion of the lands currently protects a locally significant wetland and woodland. No development is being proposed for these lands on the EP1 zoned lands, and no development is being proposed on the south end of the property either. The total size of the property is 18 hectares, and they're presently vacant. The applicant's proposing a 603.9 square meter building that will contain an office and repair garage for transport trucks. Additionally, the site will be used for the storage of transport trucks. It's the opinion of staff that the proposal is consistent with the PPS policies, as the rezoning of the lands is considered to be an appropriate use of existing employment lands and an efficient use of existing municipal services and infrastructure. In light of the official plan policies, it's the opinion of staff that the use is appropriate and is consistent with the traditional industrial policies. And in light of comments received by the Upper Thames, they are supportive of the application. However, they requested that a 30-meter setback be maintained from any future development to the limits of the wetland and the woodlands. The staff have met with the applicant on the site to mark the limits of the natural features and have indicated to the applicant that a survey will be required to delineate the features so that the required setback is accurate. The city zoning bylaw does not allow any development or site alteration within 120 meters of the EP1 zoned lands. The general intent of the EP1 zoning is to provide protection to significant natural features. However, the wetland and the woodlands on the subject lands appear to be located outside of the EP1 zone and the 120-meter setback, and therefore are not protected by the current zoning. As such, staff are of the opinion that a setback should be built into the requested M3 zoning to provide protection to the wetland and woodlands based on the survey that will be undertaken by the applicant. With respect to the proposed M3 zoning, the zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard width of 15 meters where the lands are abutting a residential or development zone. However, this setback only applies to buildings and not parking lots or outdoor storage. Based on the nature of the proposed business, staff are recommending that a site-specific zone be established on the subject lands requiring a 15-meter minimum setback from any development or site alteration along the northern property line. This setback would provide a buffer between the existing residential lots to the north, improving compatibility between the existing and proposed uses. And with respect to a letter that was received prior to the public meeting on Monday night, there were concerns, and they were also raised at the meeting, I should mention, about the setback and about noise and dust. And staff indicated that this application would be this development would be subject to site plan approval. And at that time, most likely a berm would be proposed and potentially other methods of a buffer of sorts to mitigate these concerns of the neighboring property owners. In light of the foregoing, staff are of the opinion that the proposed application can be supported from a planning perspective. However, we would recommend that it be approved in principle until we receive a detailed survey that delineates the limits of the natural features. Once the survey has been received, a bylaw will be prepared and brought back to council for approval.
Thank you. Questions of council? Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Worship. Through to Andrea. I apologize for not being here on Monday evening. I was out of town. I was glad to hear about the berming. So that is being considered by the applicant around, especially around the residents, because I'm thinking of down on Parkinson across from Brick Ponds. There's a trucking company, and they've bermed a good portion of it. And I mean, it doesn't seem to. I don't think we've had complaints. At least I have not had any, and it functions. I know that they enter, I think, off of Springbank to the property. And I think there also is an entrance, but the trucks themselves enter off of Springbank. But the berming seemed to make a huge difference. So I know that's site plan, but.
Through the mayor to Councillor Talbot, yes, that was, Craig Wallace recommended that, or indicated that staff would most likely be requesting a berm. We couldn't answer to the height of the berm because that would have to be reviewed through site plan.
Thank you. Further questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. The next item on the agenda, Councillor Accioni.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve the recommended amending bylaw, file number ZN 8-17-16, for lands comprising part lot 13, concession 1, Blandford, in the city of Woodstock, whereby the subject property be rezoned from future development zone FD to special highway commercial zone C4-48 to facilitate the development of the subject lands for service commercial uses, and further that comments received from the public were reviewed and were considered, and council's decision to approve the application.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Talbot. Oh, sorry, I mean Councillor Lauder. Ms. Hatchler.
Thank you. So the second application for zone change was submitted by 1479 Dundas Street Incorporated for lands located at 1479 Dundas Street. The application for zone change proposes to rezone the subject property from future development zone to highway commercial zone to permit a service commercial development on the subject lands. The applicant is proposing to develop the site in 2 phases. The first phase will consist of 2 commercial buildings, and the second phase will consist of the 3rd commercial building. The applicant is proposing uses such as a convenience store, eating establishment, and various retail stores. The subject lands are located in a special service commercial policy area, which was established through the East Woodstock Secondary Plan, through that process, which was done in the latter 2000s. Generally, these policies permit the broad range of uses in the service commercial designation, but exclude retail food stores, building supply outlets, hardware stores, furniture stores, and home furnishing stores. Further, in addition to the uses permitted in the service commercial areas, with the exception of those listed, a limited range of light industrial uses involving the assembly, fabrication, distribution, packaging, printing, and storage within wholly enclosed buildings may also be permitted. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal to permit the service commercial uses on the subject lands promotes economic development and competitiveness in accordance with the policies of the PPS by providing an appropriate mix and range of employment uses to meet long-term needs, as well as providing opportunities for a diversified economic base. The proposed development is also considered to be an appropriate use of existing municipal infrastructure within a settlement. The proposal also meets the intent and purpose of the special service commercial policies pertaining to the land, as the proposed development consists of uses that are contemplated by these policies. In accordance with this special policy, staff recommends that a site-specific zoning be applied to the subject lands. The site-specific zoning will limit the permitted uses to exclude uses identified in the special policy section of the official plan. Further, staff recommend a provision be included in the zoning requiring an increased front yard depth of 10 meters from the required 7.5 meters, and this will maintain a setback that is consistent with the existing and future development in the area. In light of the fact that the proposed development will be set back further on the land, staff have further recommended that the rear yard be reduced from 7.5 meters to 4 meters. The reduced rear yard will allow the applicant to shift the development on the site and still maintain an adequate setback to allow for maintenance, access, and drainage of the site. In light of the letter that planning staff received before the public meeting on Monday night, Mr. LaBreche is correct. I have spoken with Kelly from the BIA, and her main concern was that the proposed uses on, the uses on the proposed property do not compete with those in the downtown. I indicated to her that the application is consistent with the official plan policies, and that service commercial type uses don't generally compete with uses in the downtown. And she was satisfied with that response, and I don't think she would have any further comments.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next item on the agenda? Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the proposed amending bylaw file number ZN8-17-17 for lands comprising of Part Lot 5, Concession 11, Plan 41M-327, Lot 1, Isora, in the city of Woodstock, whereby the applicant proposes to rezone the subject property from active open space zone OS2 to special plan unit development zone PUD-1 to facilitate the development of the lands for a single detached dwelling, and further that no comments were received from the public regarding this application.
Thank you. And the seconder? Councillor Petter. Ms. Hatchler.
Thank you. The final zone change application was submitted by the villages of Sally Creek Incorporated, and the lands are located on the southeast corner of Oxford Road 17 and Masters Drive. The application for a zone change proposes to rezone the subject property from OS2 to special PUD zoning to facilitate the development of the lands for a single detached dwelling. For council's information, the subject lands were subject to a zone change and minor red line amendment in January 2017. The zone change application refined the extent of the lands to be developed as Phase 6 of the Villages of Sally Creek subdivision in regard to a creek block and environmental park block. The applicant also requested that the holding provision be removed to facilitate the development of the phase. Council approved the zone change and the removal of the holding provision. However, the OS2 zone was retained on the lands as recommended by planning staff, as the lands were identified as being flood susceptible. The UTRCA indicated that the lot should be reconfigured, removed from the plan, or be appropriately zoned so as to not permit development. Through discussions with the city, county, and UTRCA staff, the applicant revised the plan to merge 2 lots and remove a portion of the lands that are susceptible to flooding. These reconfigured lands form the lands subject to the current application. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal is consistent with the policies of the PPS and the official plan, as it's considered to be an efficient use of land, municipal services, and infrastructure, and is also providing a form of development that's contemplated in the low-density residential policies. The UTRCA has reviewed the reconfigured lot and is satisfied that the lot configuration and setback of the subject lands from the creek appropriately address the adjacent hazard lands. The requested zoning will require any development on the subject lands to be reviewed through the site plan approval process, where zoning requirements such as setbacks, lot coverage, and parking will be established through the site plan approval. In light of the foregoing, it's the opinion of staff that the application can be can be supported.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Thank you. And moving along, our next item is administrative services, the statement of revenue and expenditures, and the statement of capital expenditures for the period ending September 30th. Councillor Shapton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the statement of revenue and expenditure and the statement of capital expenditures for the period ending September 30th, 2017 as information.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Talbot. Discussion? Councillor Talbot.
Your worship, through to Mrs. Hilderly, I just wondered, are you happy with the position we're in? I went through the report and I saw some gaps and everything. I know sometimes we have to wait longer for revenues coming in, but are you satisfied where we're sitting?
Your worship, through to Councillor Talbot, yes, we're in a very good position. At this point in time, our expenditures should be about 75%, and they're sitting at just over 72, so I think that's a very positive thing. The revenues look higher, they're about 90-some%, and that's because we're bringing in the taxes, but there's a number of contributions from reserves that have to be done yet as well.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. The next item is the Employee Computer Purchase Program. Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the employee purchase program for computers that incorporates the parameters included in the report.
And a seconder. Councillor Shapton. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Next item is the changes to the municipal code regarding the fees and charges. Councillor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the fees and charges as detailed in the report and that the necessary bylaw be read.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Shapton. Discussion? Councillor Talbot.
It's not really a question. I just wanted to say I think people get good value for their money through the programs that are offered.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. The next item is proposed sale of surplus land. Councillor Accioni.
Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the necessary agreements of purchase and sale for a portion of surplus city-owned land near the intersection of Marlborough Street and Dundas Street as described in the report.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Petter. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And the next item is the proposed purchase of land at 97 Mill Street. Councillor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement of purchase and sale with the Mill Street Building Trusteeship Plymouth Brethren meeting in the city of Woodstock, and the necessary bylaw be read, and further that the acquisition be financed from the reserve for capital project.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next item is the update to the procedural bylaw. Counselor Shapton?
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council refer the procedure bylaw updates to the bylaw section of the agenda.
Thank you. And a seconder? Counselor Tate, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries unanimous. Next item is the Community Grant Program. Counselor Petter?
Move that in accordance with Community Grants Policy GA003, Council allocates the following grants for the year 2017. Canadian Cancer Society, $5,000. Noah Young, $3,500. Noah Parker, $3,500. Oxford Historical Society, $1,500. Woodstock Corollaires, $2,000. Woodstock Fanshawe Singers, $2,000. Woodstock Athletic Legion, $6,000. Woodstock Minor Football, $6,000. And K2K, $1,000.
Shapton, discussion? Counselor Petter?
I just wanted to thank the committee that works very hard on this grant program. This is our second allocation for the year. The first one, I believe we gave out $114,000 in 21 different groups. Excuse me. I'm fighting a cold, so bear with me. I just want to thank the committee. They worked very hard because we didn't have much money left for this section. We ended up giving it what we had left almost totally. But I'd like to thank Ethel, Carol, Len, Lori, and Chris for the great work they do. This is a very hard-working committee that really does their homework prior to the meetings, and I just want to thank them. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries unanimous. No notices of motion or new business. Up next, the bylaws. Counselor Petter?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the following bylaws be given first and second reading. 915717, a bylaw to amend City of Woodstock Municipal Code, Chapter 16. 915817, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended, ZN 81717 Masters Drive. 915917, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended, ZN 81716 1479 Dundas Street. 916017, a bylaw to repeal and replace the City of Woodstock Municipal Code, Chapter 330. 916117, a bylaw to provide for the purchase of certain lands owned by the Mill Street Building Trusteeship, Plymouth Brethren Meeting in the City of Woodstock, 97 Mill Street.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Counselor Petter?
I move by myself, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that the following bylaws be given third and final reading. 9157-17, 9158-17, 9159-17, 9160-17, and 9161-17.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries unanimous. And tonight we'll start with Counselor Tate. You're going to pass. Counselor Accioni?
Well, I don't think I've ever started before. Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, Your Worship and I had the opportunity to go to Sylvania this past weekend. And unfortunately, the Fall Festival and the parade got canceled again due to rain. But I will say that what a beautiful evening. Thank them very much. The hospitality they show us when we go down on the Saturday evening is just unbelievable. It was our 25th anniversary as sister cities, so I just want to say thank them very much. And, you know, hopefully we get invited again down next year and it's not going to be a rain out. Also want to wish everybody good luck at Cool Runnings. I can't believe it's been a year ago that I successfully ran the 5K. I've not done it again, I will openly admit, but I did survive it. Please give generously if you're not competing. Big Brothers Big Sisters, of course, is having their masquerade ball on Saturday evening. I'm really looking forward to that. That's become a really good event, and this year being a masquerade theme should make it even fun. Of course, Halloween is coming up, so please be careful, be extra cautious when you're going around. Watch for the little ones, and a friendly reminder, November is going to be loose leaf pickup, so have your leaves out to the curb. Just please don't block any bike lanes or sidewalks, or of course take them right down to James Street if you can. Thank you.
Counselor Lauder.
I'm going to pass tonight.
Okay. Counselor Petter.
Quickly before I start coughing again, I just want to bring up hockey. Hockey is in full force in the city right now with all the travel teams and house league teams. They're all going full bore, even though it's still golf weather. It's been gorgeous. It's hard to think about hockey now. I want to congratulate the Navy vets. They're doing extremely well as the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think they're getting the parade ready as I speak. I also want to bring up being a grandfather, and I have 3 different grandchildren that are at different levels of hockey, and I know Councillor Shapton was instrumental in getting the code of conduct, for lack of a better word, at the arenas posted for the parents and grandparents like me that might get a little too excited sometimes. I just want to remind all the parents and grandparents out there, their kids, they're having fun. You might not like the call the referee does, but they don't even know until they see you react. So let's keep everything in perspective. They're not going to make the NHL. Somebody might, but I don't. The majority of the kids that are playing right now are doing it for fun, so try and keep it that way. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Shapton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few things tonight. One is to let everyone know that the Finkel Street footbridge is now open again. I think that was talked about quite significantly, so it is reopened. Feel free to use it. I was down there, used it myself, so go ahead and try that out. The other thing is the Sports Wall of Fame is coming up on October 28th, but I need to advise there has been a location change. It was in the Sentinel Review, and I believe on Heart FM, that it's at Goff Hall. This year we've changed it to Cowan Park. So the times will remain the same. Arrive around 1:30. I believe the festivities start at 2, but it is at Cowan Park, and I will probably mention this next time as well, so nobody shows up at Goff Hall. And third and final thing is when you grow up as someone of my age, the Tragically Hip certainly mean a lot to myself and to my age group, and I know so many others. Obviously, with the passing of Gord Downey, they had a moment of silence, it seems like everywhere, and so many gathered. So just wanted to reflect on a great life, on a great Canadian, and a true gentleman who I actually had the fortune of meeting, and who I feel that put others long before himself. So for those that have an opportunity to put themselves on social media 1,000 times over, maybe realize the people that do the work over and over, and let's put them forth first. And it never hurts to actually meet someone in person or pick up the phone and say hello, because you just never know when that opportunity may run out. With that, have a great couple weeks, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Counselor Talbot.
Just to keep going on from Councillor Shapton, it's amazing to see all the messages coming in on his passing. It's been very interesting. Anyways, I had the pleasure on Saturday of opening the fall exhibition at the Art Gallery. It was a great event. One of the couple of the things that happened there, our permanent collection, which is the Florence Carlyle, the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa, has loaned us a portrait of Lady Drummond for a year. And it's a tremendous achievement for the Woodstock Art Gallery to receive this. There's 5 other exhibitions going on for the fall. One is off-site at the Woodstock Public Library, so you can go there to see it. And at the gallery, they also have the third and final year of See What I See from Good Beginnings, and it's a showcase of photography of a children's unique perspective. They also have the Suicide Prevention Oxford Leadership Coalition have a display there as well too. And Stu Oxley, he was there on Saturday to meet with people and take them through. His is on the main gallery, and it's an exhibition, group exhibition, Artists at Riverside Studio, which actually wraps around his impressive atmospheric paintings. And it's quite an exhibit to see. I hope people take the time to stop in and check it out. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have had a real pleasure of being able to attend many events since our last council meeting. On Saturday, October the 7th, our Moose Lodge celebrated their 85th anniversary here in the city, and definitely a big part of Oxford County some of the work that they do supporting families, and it was a great time. There was Beatles music that night, not the original band, of course. Then on Monday, October the 9th, the community Thanksgiving dinner. 5 different groups that come together each year, and this was the 20th installment of that community Thanksgiving dinner, and being able to be there to thank the volunteers that had got up much earlier than I did to start the work on that meal, and as always, smiles on the faces of everyone that is there. On Thursday, October the 12th, we had our first radiothon for the Woodstock General Hospital, and I was able to be there to be a part of the challenge, and a good response within the community, far surpassing the target they had established. So very, very good for the community, and the challenge went out beyond our city as well. It was to the entire community of Oxford County, and a great response from everyone. So I think that will be becoming an annual event going forward. On the same day, I was also able to participate in the annual Junior Deputy Fire Chief for the day, and spent a little time at station number 1 with the Junior Chief, and what a great time that is. On the same day, we had our Oxford Builders Association held a meeting that involved the committees here in Oxford County that have been working on boundary adjustment discussions for residential. So the City of Woodstock, the Township of Southwest Oxford, and the Township of East Tavistock, and that was quite an informative night for many individuals. So I want to thank the Oxford Builders Association for putting that together. And of course, as Councillor Accioni had mentioned, on Saturday, October the 14th, there was a special celebration in our sister city of Sylvania, Ohio, and tonight I am wearing the official sister city pin that they had made for that occasion. You won't be able to see it for those of you at home, but one thing that you will be able to see, this is some artwork that was, if we can zoom in on that maybe a little bit, artwork of the sister city garden that is in Sylvania, Ohio, and it was a watercolor that was put together by a young individual who has been here in our city on exchange many times, and this will be probably a special event in February at the art gallery, where we will be able to have that on display for the public, and its permanent resting place will be here at City Hall, of course. What a great relationship with Sylvania. That was my first time being able to be a part of that exchange, and looking forward to many more. This week, of course, the 16th to the 20th, the weekdays, is Local Government Awareness Week. So one of the great things I've been able to do this week is spend a lot of time at some of our local schools and explain a little bit about what the City of Woodstock does, what the County of Oxford does, and how that relates to provincial and federal matters. And it's really interesting, the questions that come from the young people. You can clearly tell which ones are the questions that come from them, or which ones are the ones that came in with the parents. So I made sure that some of the parental questions had good written answers to go home. And not able to see all of the different schools in 1 week with all of the other meetings and business that goes on both here at City Hall and engagements that I need to be at. So I think here in Woodstock that Local Government Awareness Week is going to be continuing well into next week as well. This week we have also had some great news in our downtown, some grand openings of businesses, the Burnt Brick Cafe and Nerd Tea, and it's even more reasons to come downtown. The city has always promoted shop local, and definitely come downtown and take a look at everything that we have to offer in the shops and restaurants and all of the cultural affair. Yesterday, we had a group of conservationists, environmentalists, our own WEAC, Oxford County Stewardship Councils, Ducks Unlimited, Upper Thames, City of Woodstock, myself, as well as concerned citizens that would like to become involved. Viewers will remember that we have had several delegations, both here at the city as well as at the county, from Phil Holst regarding Brick Pond wetland. And phase 1 of the rehabilitation project has officially started, and there's much more planning and resource coordination that's needed. And I wasn't able to stay for the full walkabout last night, but I have heard very good reports from everybody. So there's a lot of excitement within our community. There's been a lot of hard work over the years at the Hodges Pond site to clean up Cedar Creek, our own realignment that we've done for the Channel River at Southside Park, as well as in the future we still have in the capital plan the large expenditures for dredging Southside Park. So having a plan put in place and enacted upon for Brick Pond wetland, which happens to be the largest wetland contained within city limits in southwestern Ontario, it's very vital as the water that is there ends up coming directly into Southside Park at the pond. So great to see so many people out volunteering their time to learn more about that great initiative. Today, I was able to go to the legislature in Toronto, again, part of Local Government Awareness Week, and made some of the concerns and the voices of our residents here in the community heard amongst the decision makers there. And one of our own from the city, Brian Donlevy, was there, and he has gone through some cancer treatments recently, and what a shot to his ego today. A standing ovation from all 3 parties in the legislature when they saw his introduction. And many of the different cabinet ministers from government as well as opposition, and the premier coming over giving special remarks for him. So that was a very good highlight for my day to see that appreciation shown to a Woodstock resident. And of course, as you've already heard, we have the sports wall dedication coming up soon, and there will be some additional budget meetings, so stay posted and show up here at City Hall to be involved in budget meetings going forward. And looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Shapton, seconded by Councillor Petter. All those in favor? We are adjourned.